right, guys, it's Trail over at GOHUNT, and we are right in the middle of application season, and one of the most predominant states in the West, and one of the states we get the most questions about every year is Colorado. Colorado is a phenomenal elk state. It's a great mule deer state, and they have a host of other species that are available to you to apply for, and that application is coming up. Deadline for Colorado is going to be April 4th at 8 p.m. So you want to be aware of that time. The draw is open right now, and if you visit Colorado Park and Wildlife website, you can actually see that they have their regulations out right now. So with that, I want to dive in and cover the application process and answer some of the most commonly asked questions for applying in Colorado. First and foremost, hunter education is required to apply for a tag in Colorado. You have to complete that. You have to actually apply with your hunter ID number. And if you draw a permit, you actually have to carry your card with you into the field. You want to be aware of that. There is also a process that you can have your hunter ID verified so that you don't have to carry that. But you do have to have hunter education. Like I said, something that's kind of a quirk for Colorado is that you do have to carry your hunter ID card with you in the field when you're hunting. Next question that we most commonly get is, do you front the fees for the permits that you apply for, or do you have to buy a license to then apply? Every state's a little bit different, as is Colorado. So Colorado, you do not have to front the fees of the permits that you apply for when you apply. You only have to pay a hunting license fee and then also the application fee for each species that you apply for. So the application fee is going to be $10 per species that you apply for. And like I said, you do have to buy what they call a qualifying hunting license. So that's a small game license in Colorado. For a non-resident, the cost of that license is going to be $92.03. You have to buy that. Like I said, it's a small game license. There actually are a couple of other options for a qualifying license, those being either a spring turkey or a fall turkey tag in Colorado. If you have, like I said, either one of those, fall turkey, spring turkey, or this qualifying small game license, you have to have one of those to then apply for the draw for big game in the fall. Like I said, you will only be charged the cost of the license that you apply for if you actually draw that in the draw. So that is one benefit of Colorado. Another commonly asked question about Colorado is specific to their draw system, and even that much more so about their preference point system. So Colorado is a true preference point state for deer, elk, and antelope, meaning that the people that apply for any given hunt with the most points are going to draw those permits. There's no random component of that. You want to be aware of that when you apply, because like I said, if you apply with less points than what it has historically taken, you really don't even have a chance for that draw. There's no random component of it. It is a true preference point state. And you want to make sure that when you're applying, you're looking at the draw odds and you're really looking at the hunts that are available to you at the number of points that you have. So be aware of that. True preference point state, like I said, for deer, elk, and antelope. The point system for moose, sheep, and goat is different. It's kind of a hybrid system. So the way they work that is you have to apply actually for 3 years for one of those species and build 3 preference points. At that point, you can then apply, and if you choose to pay the fee for the weighted preference point, you'll continue to gather preference points. It's a weighted random draw after that 3 preference point period. It is a random draw after that 3-point period, meaning if I build 3 preference points for mountain goats, on that 4th year, I apply, I am entered actually into the draw. I have a chance to draw a mountain goat permit in that instance. I actually have the option at this point. This hasn't always been the case, but right now, like I said, I can continue to apply and pay for the preference point and continue to build points that will increase my chances of drawing one of those random permits over time, or I can simply retain my 3 preference points that I built up and I can continue to apply, but I won't have that advantage of having built preference points and having that weighted advantage of accumulating points over time. Those points are $100 a piece. So what I would advise you, buy, apply for 3 years, build those 3 preference points for moose, sheep, and goat. And then, like I said, on that 4th year, you can then decide if you want to continue to pay for the weighted preference points to increase your chances over time, or just simply apply and hopefully you get really lucky in the draw and you draw one of those species over your lifetime. This is when draw odds becomes really important because you want to look at the draw odds over time to see if it's actually beneficial to you to continue to buy those weighted preference points over time. My opinion, it's not. In some people's, it may be. Like I said, it is a weighted preference point random system after those 3 points. So statistically, your odds do get better, but they don't get that much better. So that's something to be aware of, specifically, like I said, for moose, sheep, and goat. Another commonly asked question we get is about applying as a party in Colorado. And you can apply as a party on an application for deer, elk, and antelope. And the number of people on your party is unlimited for those 3 species. So that's something you want to be aware of. A resident and a non-resident can actually apply together on the same party application. The way that works is when they go through the draw, if your party application is selected, every member of the party would receive a permit to go hunting. Now, Colorado will not over allocate permits to cover your group application. And if a resident and a non-resident were to apply together, the non-resident tag would actually come out of the non-resident quota. So you want to be assured when you apply as a party that there are actually enough permits to potentially cover your group application. A really commonly asked question about party applications is how do they handle preference points? It's a little bit different in Colorado. So if you apply as a party, they're actually going to take the lowest number of any single applicant on your party app, and that number is the number that you're going to go into the draw with. So for example, if my friend Cody and I apply together as a group, I've got 5 points, he's got 3 points. Our application will actually go into the draw with 3 points because that's the lowest number of preference point for any single applicant on my application. So you want to be aware of that. It's definitely something that you want to consider if you decide to apply as a party. You can actually apply as a party also for moose and mountain goat, and you can apply as a party of 2. So like I said, there is a party application process in Colorado. You want to be aware of how that system works, especially if you decide to apply that way as a group. The next question that we get asked quite a bit is about the resident and non-resident split in Colorado. And it's a little bit different and it has some intricacies, so I wanted to cover those. For deer and elk hunts that have more than 6 points to draw for a resident, so if you're a resident, you apply, it takes more than 6 points, those types of hunts are going to be split on an 80-20 quota split, meaning that non-residents are only allocated 20% of those permits, 80% will go to residents. The antelope split is different. So there actually is no percentage split for non-residents and residents for antelope. That's equal opportunity. It's just whoever applies for those hunts with the most points will draw the permits despite their residency. All right, the next most commonly asked question we get is about hunt choices and how they consider your choices in the draw. So Colorado will allow you up to 4 hunt choices when you apply. The difference in Colorado is that they will actually only consider your first choice before moving to the next applicant. So it's not like states like Nevada or New Mexico where they consider all of your choices before moving to the next applicant. They're only going to consider your first choice before they check the next application and so on and so forth. So what that essentially means is you can actually potentially draw permits as a second choice. And in those cases, it would only be available to you if there were permits remaining after every applicant's first choice was considered. You will only lose your preference points if you draw your first choice in Colorado. So that's a pretty cool opportunity for you. And there actually are hunts that are available to you as a second choice. Within your insider research account, you can actually change your hunt choice from first to second, and you can check your draw odds for drawing hunts as a second choice. Now, this is a really cool opportunity and kind of a unique strategy that you could employ if you're trying to build points and then also potentially draw a tag as a second choice to go hunting. So like I said, you're only going to burn your points if you draw your first choice. There are hunts available generally to you as a second choice. Those are typically ones that are left over, like I said, after everybody's first choice is considered, but that option is available to you. If you decide to go this route, you can actually apply for a preference point as your first choice and then hunts as a second choice. Or you could apply for a very hard to draw tag that you're never going to draw because potentially you don't have the points to do so as a first choice, and then a hunt you could as your second choice. So be aware of that. It's kind of unique to Colorado. I would highly suggest you explore that option, especially if you want to try to build some points while still getting a permit in your pocket to go hunting each fall. Another commonly asked question we get is about the ability to turn back a tag that you drew in Colorado, and you can turn back a tag. New as of last year, there is a little bit of a grace period just after the draw results are released, where you can actually surrender your permit. And that's available to you. If you draw too many tags, if you have a life event come up that you can't go hunting in the fall on that permit, you can actually surrender that permit. In that case, you have the option to retain your points, but you would not get a point for that year's application. So you want to be aware of that. So like I said, there are options to surrender a permit that you drew. The difference is, like I said, if you do it immediately after the results are released, you can retain your points and get your money back. Or, like I said, 30 days prior, you're going to have to choose between your money back or your preference points back. So you want to be aware of that. It is nice in Colorado that they allow you to do that because, things happen. You may draw a permit in another state and not be able to go on that hunt, and you can get your points back. You won't get one for that year, so be aware of that also. One of the most commonly asked questions that we get in Colorado is about point creep. And that's because, like I said, it is a true preference point system, meaning people that have the most points that apply for any given hunt draw the permits. Because of that, there are some hunts, not every hunt, but some hunts that require one additional point every single year to draw because there are more applicants than there are permits available. Also, people switch hunts. They decide to apply for a hunt that they didn't apply last year with more points, and that can also cause point creep. This is why detailed draw odds pages for the hunts you are considering within your insider account are really important. You have to look at those detailed draw odds pages, and that's going to give you 5 years of draw data. You're going to see the number of permits available and where those permits are allocated to people with how many points. You can use that to kind of help you predict on what your chances might be of drawing a permit if you're moving into that next point level. I would highly suggest, if you're considering hunts and you're looking at bringing your preference points in Colorado, review those detailed draw odds pages, read the articles on point creep, and it'll really help you evaluate your true chances of drawing a permit. The last couple things I wanted to touch on are that there are over-the-counter options to hunt in Colorado, and those are for elk. So Colorado has archery, second and third rifle elk seasons that are available to you over the counter. Those are unlimited, meaning there's no worry about getting a permit. You're going to get your permit. Those are going to go on sale on August 1st, and you can buy those online or at any sporting goods store or at a Parks and Wildlife office in Colorado. The last thing I would touch on that I kind of skipped over was desert bighorn sheep. So desert bighorn sheep in Colorado, there's no preference point system for that species in the state of Colorado. Every applicant that applies is on equal playing field for that permit. The one caveat is you cannot apply for desert bighorn and Rocky Mountain bighorn in the same year. So if your strategy is to build points and continue to apply for Rocky Mountain bighorn, I would advise you to go that route. Or if you look at the odds, you decide that it's not worth the cost or the time to try to draw a Rocky Mountain bighorn permit, apply for desert bighorn. It's completely random. And like I said, you have an equal chance as everybody else that applies. Lastly, I would say apply in Colorado. Colorado is a phenomenal hunting state. It's one of the best states in the West. World's largest elk herd, tons of mule deer habitat, lots of hunts to apply for, including archery, muzzleloader, several rifle seasons. Now's the time to get yourself an insider account if you don't have one, or dive into your insider account, do the research for Colorado, and make sure that you apply by April 4th.